You're listening to the winning literary show, Off the Shelf Books Talk Radio, live with host Denise Turney, author of the books Long Walk Up, Portia, Love Pour Over Me, Spiral, Love Has Many Faces, and Rosetta's Great Hope. Turn up your dial and get ready for a blast of feature author interviews, 411 on book festivals, writing conferences, and so much more. Ready? Let's go.
I believe that the only courage anybody ever needs is the courage to follow your own dreams. I got to say that again. I believe that the only courage anybody ever needs is the courage to follow your own dreams. And that's a quote from Oprah Winfrey, and we kicking it off this November the 7th, you guys. First Saturday in November. This year is blowing by. I want to welcome, I always like to pause and thank our loyal listeners who've been with us for 16 years here on Off the Shelf. Thank you. It's a beautiful Saturday here where I am on the East Coast. And also, if this is your first time tuning in to Off the Shelf, you're just like, what am I going to do this morning? Maybe you're cleaning house and you want to entertain yourself with an awesome author interview. I just want to let you know that you are listening to the winning book radio show, Off the Shelf. And we have a wonderful author on deck for you. And I'm excited to introduce her to you. But before I do, I keep asking you guys, how good of a mystery sleuth are you? If you love mystery, if you value relationship, there is a soulmate relationship, and there are these friends, these 5 dude friends who are friends for life after they meet in college. There's also a murder mystery shrouding Raymond, who's the star of Love Pour Over Me, and one of his friends. What would you do if you started to see the finger of something criminal pointing toward one of your best friends? I mean, it's easy to say it before it ever happened, but what if you were in the middle of it, entangled up in it, webbed up in it? What would you do? If you value relationships, you like romance, and you love a thrilling mystery, don't even wait. Get a copy of Love Pour Over Me now. You can get a copy in ebook or in print format. And I also want to let you guys know, I also just published another new book, was last Monday, Awaken Blessings of Inner Love. And that is a nonfiction book, my first published nonfiction book. And it's shortcuts to self-love and success in a busy world. And again, it's Awaken Blessings of Inner Love. We can all use more techniques and practices. And it's stuff you got to do every day to practice self-love. So when we come up against challenges, we're ready. So, again, go and get to enjoy yourself a copy of Love Pour Over Me and Awaken Blessings of Inner Love. If I had a drum, I'd be beating my drum right now, you guys. And now let us go and meet our very special off-the-shelf guest. And our special off-the-shelf guest this morning is Geri Goodwin. And Geri is a native of Arizona. She is a wife, mother, and a woman who dreamed about writing romance novels for 20 years. Ooh, that ties into the quote, and I didn't even know that. What did the quote say again? I believe that the only courage anybody ever needs is the courage to follow your own dreams. She dreamed about writing romance novels for 20 years. She went and did it, y'all. She has been interviewed in several media outlets, including Writer's Life magazine, I Love Romance blog, and The Author's Show. Geri is also the author of the book Mason's Gray, and we're going to dig into Mason's Gray this morning on Off the Shelf. Please check Geri Goodwin out online. Her name is spelled, by the way, Geri, in case you're searching for her on Google, Gerigoodwin. So, Geri, please check her out. You can go over there even now as you listen to her on Off the Shelf this morning. And her website is GeriMyersGoodwin.com, GeriMyersGoodwin.com, GeriMyersGoodwin.com. We are absolutely honored to have Geri Goodwin with us here this morning. I hope I'm picking up the right line. Good morning, Geri. Welcome to Off the Shelf.
Good morning, Denise. How are you this morning?
I am doing fabulous this morning. I am doing awesomely blessed. And how are you on this morning?
I am fabulous as well. I'm excited to have a conversation today.
Okay, you sound ready, Geri. We're happy to have you on this morning. It's absolutely a pleasure having you on Off the Shelf, and I'd like to let our guests know when they come on, the first 3 to 4 questions I ask every single guest. When I started Off the Shelf 16 years ago, I would just go right into the questions. And I got emails from the listeners, and they said, no, stop doing that. Give us a little backstory on the guests, and then go into the questions. So, to kick it off, Ms. Geri, can you tell Off the Shelf listeners where you grew up and what life was like for you growing up?
Okay, well, first of all, I just want to let you all know that the pronunciation of my name is Geri, and when you look at it, it looks like Geri. There's an accent mark, and everybody does it. I don't know. It just, my parents gave me this unusual name, and but anyway, I just wanted to say it's Geri, and hey, everybody out there. I was born in Phoenix, Arizona, and lived there till I was about 11 years old, and my parents moved us to Prescott, not Prescott, Prescott, Arizona, where I lived most of my life and raised 3 children. And recently, 2 years ago, moved to the Tucson area, Oro Valley to be exact. So that's a little background there. What other hot details would you like, Denise?
And are you an only child, or did you have siblings when you grew up?
Yes, I have an older brother, a younger sister, and a stepsister and a stepbrother.
Okay. So there were 5 of us. So it was 5 of you. I think it's good. Well, only child, I think when I think of somebody only child, your parents generally center on you. They can give you more of their attention. But when you have siblings, you got people to bounce stuff off of and just play with, and it's I think it's for me. It's 5 of us, so I loved growing up with siblings. But I think being an only child has its privileges as well. So when you were a kid, Geri, what did you want to be when you grew up? What did you dream about being when you were a kid?
I dreamt about being a singer and a musician.
Oh.
That was my dream, and it's been my dream my whole life. Sometimes our lives take a turn in different direction.
Did you pursue that at any point? Did you do any singing? Did you try to put out a record, or do you have any records out?
No, I didn't. It was something that in elementary school I started playing piano and saxophone, and I was very involved in band and choir. And I just fell in love with it, and I loved performing. I guess I'm kind of a ham. I'm not shy about getting up there. I'm the first one on the dance floor, the last one to get off. But, went through we moved to Prescott, and I was trying to fit into a new school and make new friends. And then, of course, the boys came around and got boy crazy, and I just didn't pursue it anymore, and it honestly is one of my biggest regrets. Biggest regret.
There's still time. You might be able to mix it in with your books or something, or maybe one of your books turns into a movie, and you can sing like one of the songs on the soundtrack. Who or what? So you wanted music. You got into the band and everything, and you fell in love with it. Who or what inspired you? Who or what inspired you to pursue writing? What birthed your love for books?
My mother. She read romance novels. She would get up early in the morning, beat the rest of us up so she'd squeeze in some reading time. And like I said, when I was younger, I wasn't into reading books. I liked music. Everything was music. And then as I got older, into my late teens and 20s, she just wanted me to read these books so bad because I think she wanted to have a little mother-daughter book club going, you know. So I started. She'd pass me off her books, and I'd start reading them, and I fell in love. I was hooked. And then I was reading one right after the other and after the other. And one day I thought, I have ideas in my head. My head really goes off to this fantasizing place. It always has. So, her passing that on to me, and then I fell in love with it, and then I wanted to write it.
And how were you, Geri, when you knew you wanted to be a writer? Were you like a little girl?
No, I didn't know till I was about 28 years old.
Oh.
Somewhere between, about 28.
Interesting. So what is it about romance novels that appeals to you? And were those the type of books you and your mom were reading? Romance novels?
Yeah. Yes. She would branch out into some mystery, but mostly, I mean, I only ever read romance. I do like some of the self-help genres, but yeah. And what I love about the romance is I love being in love, and I love the passionate chemistry between people. I'm just drawn to it, all of it, the passion, even the conflict, and how they get through it. It's my thing.
So now we're going to talk about Mason's Gray. Where did the inspiration? You said your mind goes off, and when you're in your writing, so the ideals you get for books. Where did the inspiration for Mason's Gray come from? And actually, before you answer that, I wanted to ask you this question. So you had all these ideas. You're reading these books with your mom, and she's passing books on to you. Is this your first written novel, or is this just your first published novel? Because some writers write a load of novels, and then they might say, no, they're not really ready, and then they finally publish one. Is this your first novel that you wrote?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Where did the inspiration for Mason's Gray come from?
It actually came from a dream. A lot of my ideas come from dreams, and I've literally learned to, when I wake up from one, I have a pad of paper and a pen right by my nightstand so I can jot it down, because I don't want to, sometimes we wake up and the dream is vivid, but then after a few hours we lose some of that. So now I write it down, but it came from a dream.
So, well, let me ask you, is it related to any real-life experience? Most of our dreams, because I write my dreams down too, but most of our dreams, even if they don't seem to be about us, they are about us. So is it, and you don't have to go into detail, but is it any way connected to something you were experiencing in your personal life when you look back on the dream?
Not the dream. The dream plays the fantasy part of the book, but the other parts of the story, the plot of the story, is very much similar to experiences that I was feeling and going through. And it's very relatable. I know that a lot of people can relate to Morgan Gray and what she was feeling and going through and trying to accomplish.
Okay, now being that Mason's Gray, and I love that title. I love the title of that book. Mason's Gray is your first novel. Being that it is your first, you've read for years, you have this passion for music. How far off the shelf listeners who are where you once were, they might be thinking about writing a book, but they haven't done what you've done. Being that it's your first novel, can you tell our listeners how easy or challenging it was to actually, and you said this came from a dream, to actually write your very first novel?
Well, there really hasn't been anything easy about this entire process, although
Really?
I will say that in the big picture of things, the writing was the easy part compared to other things. The first time I sat down to try to actually write a book, I had nowhere I had no idea where to start. I just sort of stared at the computer screen. It's just this dumbfounded look on my face. And then I ended up taking a 3-day crash course at the community college in Prescott, Yavapai Community College, and it was on writing and publishing, and it was the best thing I could have done. The instructor, Tom Paul Fox, he did an amazing job just getting right down to the important details to help you get started, and it worked magically. The second time that I took a whack at writing Mason's Gray, it was like night and day. I just took off.
Did you? So you went? You took a class. Did you work with? Did you work with any writers' critique groups, et cetera, to help you? So you had no experience even. So you just sat down and started. I think it's really smart that you took that class. But for our listeners, I'm going back to my early days, and I'm trying to. This last question before we start talking about your novel to help. I like to offer tips and advice to our listeners in their interviews that they can use in their own lives. So you took the class. Did they teach you to use an outline? Did you use character sketch? How did you get the ideals for our listeners, again, who want to write a novel onto the paper? Is that what you were taught to do? Write an outline, write a very detailed outline, and then start writing the book?
Yes, it was recommended to do that, and I did that, and I think that is huge. But also, he taught us how to be descriptive and how that's, you want the reader to be able to feel like they're that person or they're in that place, they're in that moment. So they have to be able to visualize it. So he had us practice writing paragraphs, very descriptive paragraphs, and then we would all critique each other of how it could have sounded better or different. And it really clicked into my head. For some reason, I just picked it up very quickly, and it made all the difference in the world. So just little things like that, but they're important details, very important details.
And it is very important for the reader to feel and experience the story. And writing is you never get to where you're perfect. Life teaches you things, and you keep learning how to get better and better and better as a writer. All that shared now, we coming down to the nuggets. Introduce off-the-shelf listeners to Brody Mason. Tell us what's Brody like.
Oh, my gosh. He is, first and foremost, he's a rock star. He's a rock icon, so he's well-known. But he is alluring. He has beautiful, dreamy green eyes. He's also career-driven, successful, which can make him a bit uptight, kind of stuffy. He's very focused. It's always work, work, work. He's not looking for love and romance. He finds it to be just pointless with his line of work that it doesn't work out. So he's shut the door to it. He's hot.
She's like, I would hook up with Brody myself. She's like, I would hook up with Brody myself. How old is he? You know, a lot of rock stars, they start their careers, they're in their teens or 20s, but they can go for years and decades. How old is he? And when we're thinking about rock star, is he like, I'm thinking, what time period is the story set in? And how old is Brody? And when you say rock star, you like, I'm thinking he's not a rock star, but like a Justin Bieber or Elvis Presley when he was super hot. How much of a rock star is this guy?
He's the ultimate rock star, and it's set in current times, but Morgan Gray and Brody Mason they're middle-aged people, so they're in their late 40s. I guess, I think of that as middle age. I don't know, there's different ideas of what middle age is, but they're in their late 40s. Yeah,
so
but it's set in current times.
How long has he been performing?
he's been around for a while, since like his 20s, early 20s, or younger.
So let me ask you this for
Yeah.
our listeners: He's never fallen in love. You said he's sworn that off. He's never fallen in love, or he fell in love and it didn't work out, and now he's like, no, I ain't doing that again.
Exactly. He tried to, to be the dedicated partner, loyal, faithful, and that career with constant women being around, it's just not conducive to relationships, and partners don't feel very secure in that relationship with him. There's always that insecurity because all these other women are always around, and that's part of the rock and roll lifestyle.
So I'm still. Well, let me. Are his parents married? Most of us, even a rock star or real popular actor or actress, one if a relationship. If we could have it, you see people go in and out of even celebrities go in and out of long-term relationships, 8 years, 10 years. They want it to work, even if it's challenging. Has he really sincerely, and I don't want you to get a story away, but is he at a point where he really sincerely believes he will just fail at a relationship with anybody?
I believe so. And I think that's why he's so focused and obsessive about his career, because it keeps him from being susceptible to really falling for someone.
Well, let me ask you this. You said you had a dream, and this wasn't a question I was going to ask you, but were you involved in a relationship with a celebrity, or you love music? Were you yourself, and then this dream came from that experience? You don't have to say who it was if that's the case.
No, it's not based on the dream didn't come from an actual experience. I think it's just more of a, with my passion for music and particular bands or musicians, a particular band that I follow and love. I don't know. I guess I don't really know why. It was just, and I had the same dream several times. It wasn't just the one dream, and I had the same premise of the dream, the same person several times. And I was like, I got to write about this because it keeps showing up.
That is, in the dream world, that is very interesting. Introduce us to Morgan Gray. You said they're in their 40s. What is Morgan Gray like? What is Morgan Gray doing? Tell us about Morgan.
Morgan is a woman who, once again, she's in her late 40s. She's suffered loss and tragedy. She starts to face another uncomfortable life transition that forces her to take a look at her life, how she's living it, and what she wants to do differently. She dives in and digs into those dreams that she wanted to take on in an earlier life and never did. Really feeling like she needed to refocus and protect her heart from the changes that are to come. She's a devoted mother. She sets off on this adventure not looking for love, not thinking of that in any way, shape, or form, just wanted to take on a new journey and take on some goals that have always been in her mind.
And what does she do for a living? What's her career?
Well, I don't really talk on her past too much. It's more about today and moving forward what she does. So she had always wanted to be a photographer. Okay. So that's what she sets out to do. So really the discussion in the book about her past is how she was devoted to her children and there for them and raised them. And
then before we go on too far, I wanted to ask you this. before the show is over, I would love for you to read a little bit of Mason's Gray if you can. If not, then you can't. But if you could just let me know, and then I'll pause somewhere, and you can treat the listeners to an excerpt from Mason's Gray. But before that, how old? So Morgan's in her 40s. And how long has she been an empty nester? She's been a devoted mother. She's raised her kids. And this is a time in a lot of people's lives, and I've heard mothers say this can be a very scary time, and particularly women who your whole life is your children, your whole life. And then when especially if you're raised them as a single parent, but even women who are married say this is a very difficult time. Then your children are gone. Your whole life is your children, and now they're gone, and it's like, okay, now what do I do? It's like retirement, but maybe even harder. They're your whole life, and now they're not in the home anymore, and all the time you devoted to your kids, maybe going to their school events or sporting events, whatever, if they were involved in that or whatever events they were involved in, guiding them, just even going to entertainment, out to eat with them or whatever they would go to with you, that's all gone. So how long has she been an empty nester when Mason's Gray, the story, kicks off?
It's very fresh. It's very fresh, definitely not even a year into it, definitely not. Very fresh. And that's why she said, I got to do this because this hurts and I don't know what I'm going to do if I don't find a purpose.
Wow. And that's almost like a little bit of not a warning, but a tip to us as mothers is, and you never know what's going to happen. Oh, my God, you never, some
very
children.
Very much a tip.
You never know what's going to happen. So it's like when you're raising your kids, now people advise have a hobby, do something else that you're not just working. If you work outside the home or being married and raising your kids, do something else so it won't be such a punch in the gut when they do leave. Can you introduce us? First of all, can you treat us to an excerpt before the hour is out? Okay. Before you do that, can you introduce us to some of the other books, other major and minor characters who help push the story forward?
Yes. So there's Morgan's 3 adult children who really add a lot of flair to the story because they're in the midst of all this, watching their mom make these huge, these big life changes. And then not only that, but she meets this unlikely man. And it dives into how their emotions and their reactions to it and their protection to her, for her, their concern for her. They're with her the whole way through it. So they play a huge role and add a lot of flair to the story. And then my other favorite supporting character is Jackson. He's the drummer of the band, and he's flipping hilarious. He's a goofball. He's the opposite of Brody because he's just happy and funny and goofy all the time, but he's really good for Brody because Brody's so uptight that he evens him out. He gets him to cut loose. A lot of entertainment with Jackson.
You wouldn't think that Brody would be uptight. Like a rock star. Did he start out that way? It's like, when you think rock star, you think the most open-minded, fluid, flexible person.
Well, if you think about it, though, he's missing out on so much because he's shut this door. Right? He's missing out on love and passion and sex and, well, not sex because he can have all the sex
I
he
was getting ready to say, wait a minute. If he's that guy, if he's that ultimate rock star, that'd be hard to do.
Right. So I have to correct that. He can do as much of that as he wants, but there's a lot that he's shut out of his life. So, I mean, that can make a person just, if you're, maybe he's just not really happy because all he does is work. That's all he has in his life is his career. And it's not that he's not good at it, and it's not that he doesn't love it, but because he's shut off everything else, that matters and making us get the warm fuzzies. He's missing out on the warm fuzzies.
Okay. Does Morgan? So her kids they're no longer living at home. They're gone. They're either in college or beyond college, and she packs up and leaves. How long? So she's already a year into empty nester, and then she makes this other major move. How long has she lived in this house? And she just says, "I'm." Does she sell the house and she just packs up and moves? Yep. That is a huge major change. She just introduced another major change into her life.
Yeah, right. So it's very emotional because she sells the house that the kids that she raised her kids in, and rents a beach house for the summer to do this photography. The beach is her epicenter.
Wow. Oh my God.
It's the epicenter for everything, and I'll leave it at that.
I am shocked that she just sells her house, and does she move? She moves far away to this beach house, and it's just kind of amazing that she just in a house she raised her kids in. I guess she's really picking up roots. Now her husband, her partner, transitioned 8 years earlier. Is she truly ready? Is she really ready for another relationship? A lot of times we think I'm ready to move on, I'm ready, and then we get another relationship, and we're a couple of months in, and we're like, oh, I did this too soon. Is she really ready?
Well, you would think after 8 years of avoiding it, so to speak, and just focusing on being there for her children, you would think she'd be ready for it, but she really, meeting Brody just really catches her off guard. And once again, it's emotional because there is a struggle, definitely a struggle, and understandably so. So she's a widow.
And
there's a lot
going
on in her mind, a lot of confusion, a lot going on in there.
God. He's never been,
too,
and he's never been married. Yeah, he's never been married. He doesn't have kids, and she has kids, and they're very protective of her. He's the ultimate rock star. Does Morgan? If he's that much of a rock star, she obviously knows who this guy is. If she was to see him, but some people are like real famous. But so let's say somebody's a famous actor, but I don't watch many movies, so I don't know about that guy. Does she know who he is? Has she followed his career before they meet?
She definitely knows who he is, but their initial run-in with each other, she knew him from somewhere, but it wasn't until a little bit later that she goes, oh my gosh, I just realized who that was. And he does have a son, so he had a relationship, and he has an adult son, just to throw that in there. So he has a child.
Okay.
So that's another part of the story is where his son plays a role in it all.
See, this is getting juicy. And I'm thinking now from one thing you said, like maybe they had known each other way, way back, but I'm not going to ask you that. Will it give the story away if you tell us how they met?
It might. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe I won't tell too much. I don't want people to miss out on reading it.
No, absolutely not. We want people to get this Mason's Gray. Now, how can just a little bit, because this could actually be something to whet somebody's appetite. I got to get this story. I got to read Mason's Gray. How similar or opposite are Morgan and Brody?
Oh, I would say they're very opposite. She's very mellow. Well, if you think about it, her life is completely different than his. Their worlds are completely separate from one another. So I think that's what I mean by they're completely different. Their lifestyles are completely different. He has a lot more edge, definitely edgier, speaks with gruff and aggressiveness. And she's just your all-American mom, bouncing around, living life, surviving, and things like that.
Not two people who you think will get together. The more you talk about Brody, the more I think I'm imagining him completely wrong. I'm seeing this free-spirited, go to the beach, go surfing, hanging out in his 20s, just hanging loose, going to parties, and the more you he's sounding more like a corporate executive rock star, kind of more structured, not so free-spirited. He's coming across that way to me now.
Yeah, he's the leader of the band. He's the one that, leads them on their path and totally focused on the career side of his life. That's it. And he's not. He needs to be more free-spirited, and this is something that Morgan has the ability to pull out of him if time allows. And I'm sure he must recognize.
Oh, Jerry, throwing that in there. So, last question before you treat us with last question before you treat us with an excerpt. Then I have other questions to follow that up with. Is there an element of suspense or mystery in Mason's Gray? And I think you already answered that question. If so, without giving the story away, but to make people more intrigued, could you give us a peek into that mystery, if there is an element of suspense or mystery in the story?
There is definitely an element of suspense. It reaches a height that goes, whoa, holy cow, but I don't want to say any more than that.
Wow.
It's definitely there.
Okay.
100%.
So can you give us a reading from Mason's Gray?
I can. A little short and sweet, but I really like this part here. Morgan put her camera to work, clicking away effortlessly. She'd been lost in concentration, oblivious to the sea breeze, blowing her white dress up like a sail. The sun began to work against her as it made its way behind the ocean wall, leaving her without the light she needed to continue. Finding the perfect spot to nestle into the sand, she sat down to take advantage of her surroundings and all the inspiration they contributed. She thought of her kids and how much she wished they were there to share this experience with her. Tears began to stream down her face. She couldn't remember the last time she felt so free and completely in control of her life.
So she's here. And when this happens, she's just gotten to her beach home. It sounds like she just got. Okay.
And she's reflecting. Yeah, she's reflecting, and it gets very emotional.
So she can't remember the last time she felt so free. Is that why would she say that? Is it because it's interesting that she would say that? She's
free and completely in control of her life. So free for her to go after her dreams and follow through. She's in the driver's seat now, 100% in control in the driver's seat. She can do what she wants.
And she's still not sure what that is.
Nobody's going to make it happen for her but herself.
Yeah, and she's still not sure what that is. She loves photography, so she's going after that. So Mr. Brody, he is like scared of commitment. He's got a son, but he's, I'm not in getting involved in any more relationships. I'm sticking with my career. I'm going after my music. And it's pretty amazing also. This guy's he's in his mid or late 40s, and he's been a rock icon for 20 years. He must be up phenomenally, because that's rare. You even if you at the top of your field, you can stay strong, but most people, there's a fall off after 10, 15 years. You can still really be up there, but you probably won't be the hottest thing going. It's rare. It's so hard to maintain that in the arts. It's whether it's a novelist might be able to, but from what I've seen, musicians, singers, actors, it's hard to stay that razor hot beyond 10 years. It's really, really hard. So, he must really be doing something right. But so he's at the top of his peak. He's afraid of commitment. And here comes Miss Morgan, and she's just looking for. He thinks he's got his whole life figured out. It sounds like he's just totally in his music, and she's trying to figure out what she should do next. So they hook up. They meet. We know they hook up. Mason's Gray. How hard is it? How hard is it for Morgan to tame Brody, even if she can? He's been living like this for a long time.
It was never her intent to tame him or change him in any way. Adapting to his lifestyle, that's definitely something. That's a challenge. But expecting him to change or him expecting her to change, that's not happening. We are who we are. We're going to be honest with each other. We're too old for games and a bunch of BS. We're going to be comfortable with who we are and be together the way we want to be together. Or we're just not. We're just not. So there is no changing or taming anyone. It's accepting.
Oh, my gosh. This Mason's Gray is getting more interesting, because how many people really, and I guess a lot of people do it, but they don't verbally come to some or written agreement that, okay, if you sleep with other people, I'm cool with it, just don't put it all in my face. It's just almost amazing. Here's a woman who was married. She raised 3 kids by herself. She's got the ability to put her head down, be dedicated, be committed, and this is just very interesting to me. It's just an interesting dynamic, and she's just going to roll with it. Does he break her heart? And you don't have to say how he does, but does he break her heart? Is this like a warm? It doesn't sound like a warm and fuzzy romance where it's like it all goes well. He doesn't change, and she's up for that. She really, really is okay with him living that rock star life for real, for real.
It's more about when you enjoy being with someone, then you spend time with that person, and you don't get into the heavy. If you want to be together, you be together. I think it's very evident that Morgan's not looking for marriage. He's not looking for marriage. We can enjoy each other and spend time together, and we don't have to worry about all the other stuff, the heavy stuff. Let's just be ourselves and be together. But yes, ultimately, there's heartbreak. There's misunderstanding. Whether deliberate or undeliberate, it happens.
So is Mason's Gray for our off-the-shelf listeners who are, they're like, they're people who are avid romance readers. The latest romance novel comes out, boom, they've got to get it. They just love romance. From movies, you see on TV on Lifetime, Hallmark, people just love romance. I think it's one of the top-selling genres, actually. So is Mason's Gray. We know there's some mystery in here, and jury's not telling us what it is, but there's some mystery in here. Is Mason's Gray, is this a romance that people who believe in magical romance, where things just magically go right in the end? Is this a book where they would just be so satisfied? Or is this more of a suspense romance, romance thriller type of a story?
I would say more a romance novel with a suspenseful twist. It's not mystery, romantic suspense. And I felt like my readers would be happy in the end. And it was interesting, some of the reviews that I've read said that they enjoyed the book. They just wanted there to be more. So I thought that was interesting.
Oh.
It's not that they weren't satisfied, but that they didn't want it to end. They wanted it to keep going.
And that's an awesome review. How long is Mason's Gray? And so it takes place in a day's time period. She sold her home, the home she raised her kids in. She's moved to rented a beach home. Brody is, I guess he's on the road touring. And somehow they meet. So the story starts in, let's say, whatever period. How many months or years from the start of the book to the end take place and are covered in Mason's Gray?
Less than a year. Close to a year, but a little shy of a year.
Oh.
So it really just dives into her change, they meet, and what happens within the months following. It just gets right down to it.
And how long is it? Is it like 200 pages, 250?
It is, let me take a look here. So it is actually considered a novella. So it's at a little just shy of 200 words. I'm sorry, pages, not words. That would be a really
Oh, that's
short
a novel
book,
to me. That is 200 pages. You know, they say if you over 40,000 words, that's a novel. That sounds like a novel to me. But, you know, it's good that readers would say they wanted more of the story. What's some other feedback you've been getting from readers beyond they wanted more of the story, which I think is a compliment that you've received on Mason's Gray?
A lot of people have loved that the main characters are people that are middle-aged people. They had a lot of response to that. They were so happy. They thought it was refreshing that Morgan and Brody were in their late 40s and weren't these perfect 20-year-olds, you know, or 20-something.
Interesting.
Is what they say. Yeah, and several people commented on the kids' involvement and how they loved that part of it. That part of the story and the relationship in there between the mom and the kids.
Are there plans?
Everybody's just been really kind. Everybody's been so kind with their reviews, and I'm so appreciative. Are
there plans to write a sequel? Since you've been hearing this feedback from readers, they want more of the story. Is there more that could happen between Brody and Morgan that you could write? Okay, so first question. Had you planned to make this just a standalone book when you first wrote it?
Yes, standalone.
So now that you're getting this feedback, because series books sell very well, are there ideals circling in your mind to turn this into a series?
Yes. I've had a lot of people, not only in the reviews, but personally ask me, would you please, you need to write a sequel to Mason's Gray. And it's just touched me so deeply that how can I not? You know, how can I not? If the readers want it and they're into it, then all right, let's do it.
And you see, this is how you get your. This is a thing, and I'm trying to remember when this took off, the series books. It used to be anthologies. One way to get your name out there as an author was to get in an anthology with some best-selling authors and get your name in their book, and everybody promote and market the book. and then puts like a link to your website, to your story or something. That was one way, and it's still an effective way to get your name out there, especially as a new author. And another way that came along later, when I first started, I published my book Portia in '98. Series books, I didn't hear so much about them. Anthologies, I was hearing about, but not so much. Series books now is how a lot of authors become full-time novelists, and they just keep pumping them out. Some put a new novel out once a month. Some put 3-4 books out a year. And I've heard some writers say it took them a couple of years to get there, but they are making in 6 figures just off of book sales. But they have a ton of books, like 30 or more books. But that's a good way, a series. Then the readers just keep wanting to know what's happening with Morgan and her kids and what's happening with Brody and his son and his band. And they just keep buying more and more of the books. So that's are you writing on the next book in the series now?
I've started my outline on it. I actually have a book that's about to be published in the next week or two. It's going to go live. I did write a second book. It's not related to Mason's Gray. It's about to be published. It's called Reflections at Mirror Pond. But
you come up with some great titles. Oh my goodness, Reflections.
Thank you.
Can you
Mirror
tell us
Pond.
Can you tell us about Reflections at, you said Mirror Pond, can you give us a little inside glimpse into that book?
Well, it's completely different than Mason's Gray. It's a lot more sentimental. It's really the story of 3 kids that grew up together. It focuses, the epicenter is Mirror Pond, where they grew up, where they spent a lot of time together. Focuses on their relationship as children, but then it moves forward into their relationship as adults. And it's just, I cried several times when I wrote it.
Wow.
I'm excited.
I can hear you
get
getting emotional now. Oh my goodness. Is this a mystery? Is this a bit of mystery in here too?
All the books I write are going to be romance, so it always will be romance. And I kind of don't like to say too much because I like the readers to, be in the moment of what's happening before knowing too much in advance. Is that okay for me to kind of leave it like that?
No, and I think that's good, but I can tell you sometimes without giving the story away, when you talk about the book enough where you don't hide too much, it actually builds intrigue in the reader and makes them want to know more about the story. I find that because if you don't, sometimes if you keep too much back, you have to build that intrigue. And then over time, you learn what to give away to build that intrigue. So you give them enough, not hold too much back, but enough so there is enough intrigue to say, I want to know what's going to happen in this story. That shared, as we come down to like the last 6-7 minutes of today's show, can you share 3 to 4 steps that you take, Geri, that you found to be effective at getting the word out about your books?
Well, actually, you were asking me earlier about what was easy or challenging. That's part of the challenge, is knowing how to promote and market the book. And honestly, I don't know that I can say I'm still trying to figure it out. I do the social media. I reach out to my community for book signing events. And really, the one thing that I really recommend is for people who want to write to really do your research during the process on how to effectively publish, self-publish, promote, and market your book. I sort of just dove in and started writing and then had it published, I didn't spend enough time learning about all the other things. And I'm paying the price now because I really don't know what to do. I'm just trying to do the best that I can. So I don't want that to be discouraging. I want it to be encouraging in that really learn about this process so that you're not like me and feeling kind of lost to where you know that this could be a really great thing. You just got to figure out how to open the doors and be successful in the end. Sometimes I feel like I hit a lot of walls, and sometimes it's discouraging, but I keep finding ways to get around and over them.
Good for you. And it is a tough road. And the self-publishing, when I self-published, it was like you got punched in the face. The librarians, editors, bookstores, nobody would touch your book. So I just hustled. And now we know with the working from home, the virtual, but Amazon wasn't even around when I started. I think if they were just launching. So it was even that. You try to get your books in Barnes & Noble and Borders and local bookstores. But some of the ways for you, Geri, and to our listeners, I got a hold of Getty Press. I went to the library reference, and I don't know how beneficial it is now, but they have like magazines, newspapers, radio stations in there. And I just got me an Excel spreadsheet, and I still use an Excel spreadsheet today, and I still do this today. But I just started reaching out to radio stations that I thought had the listeners who would buy my books. I told them the benefits to the listeners of me being on the show, and if I tie it to a real-life event, a news event, even though it's a novel. My first book was about a woman dealing with breast cancer, and I was doing radio interviews left, right, up, down, in, and out over the phone for that. And now they have, I think it's called Radio Guest List. You can get on there. They have a book you can get on Amazon. I want to say it's Radio Guest List. They have a book for $9 in all these different online radio stations looking for guests. Some of them get a lot of listeners. Some of the shows don't get as many listeners, but like what Off the Shelf goes into the archives, as long as I keep Off the Shelf going, people come in and listen to the show. They can listen today. They can listen next week. People come in next month. They come in next year, and you get more and more traction. And I'm constantly promoting shows. I'm promoting shows weeks after the shows have occurred. But so that's another way. I think it's Radio Guest List. Again, they have on Amazon. You can buy it $9. The directory. I think they put a new one out every year. Getty Press is another place. When I started out, press releases. I used to do press releases, and they get picked up. I'm not sure how much you can get out of a press release. Blogging, and I'm in Blogorama, but I don't know how much that leads to book sales, but I definitely get a lot of visitors. I probably get like 1,000 visitors to my blog a day. So that's another way to get traction. But BookBub, Blurb, Readsy. I'm just giving out all kind of tips. Looking for international places in other countries where you can promote your books. I go through Okada Books. That's an African bookstore. You can do Kindle book promos, Amazon sponsored ads, Bargain Booksy. I've had very good success with Bargain Booksy. Some people would, I think it's All Gang Books. But I'm just giving you a bunch of tips here, there, places where you can go. And then you watch your budget because, everybody will flip an ad to you. Watch your budget. Mm-hmm. And then I do Tweet Your Books. I think it's called Tweet Your Books with Colette. I forget her last name, but she charges me it's like $30 a month. And then they just shoot all those tweets out, so I don't have to do that. Schedulers like Hootsuite, Vistaprint has a scheduler for like $5 or $6 a month. There's just so many different ways you can schedule your social media posts. I still go into social media, radio interviews, offline, online. You could try press releases. Blogging, I definitely recommend that people do blogging. And then those other sites that I gave you. So those are tips I'm sharing with you as you continue to grow your career. Can you tell us We're running out of time. Can you tell us where our listeners can get copies of Mason's Gray?
Yes, well, probably the best place to go is my website, GeriMyersGoodwin.com. And right on the front page, there's a buy now, and just click on it, and it'll shoot you right to the Amazon site. You can go on Amazon if you want to, but my website is fabulous.
There you go. You guys, we have been blessed to have on Miss Geri Myers Goodwin, and her website is G as in good, G as in great, GeriMyersGoodwin.com. If you came in on the show midstream, like I always tell you, guys are late into the show. You were busy this morning and you came in later. No worries. When the show finishes streaming, you can go back and listen to it in its entirety in the archives. And keep up with Miss Geri Goodwin. She's working on the second book in her series. Got a new book coming out in just a few weeks or days or weeks. Keep up with her, please. If she takes off, you can say, I was there with Geri at the beginning. Yeah, and you have to support her now to be able to say that. So her website, bookmark her website. Go get a copy of Mason's Gray by Geri, Geri Goodwin. Geri, when the show finishes streaming, I'll send you an email to share with your supporters. And as always, I always keep promoting and marketing the show for weeks and weeks and weeks. Thank you to all of our listeners who tune into Off the Shelf today. Please support Ms. Geri Goodwin. Geri Goodwin, GeriGoodwin. And remember, you are awesome. You are amazing. You're fabulous. Go out and create an awesome day for yourself. Geri, I'll shoot you an email when the show finishes streaming. Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Have a great day.